The Harry Potter series is off to a great start as they have already been destroying the casting, hiring Papa Essiedu, or however it's pronounced, in order to play Snape. Now, a lot of people have gone to great effort to prove that Papa doesn't look like Snape.
Black girl magic!
There's quotes from the books about how he's pale, sallow skin, colour of cell milk, marble white, and drawings from JK Rowling herself. But I don't care about that because Snape is an Englishman. And as an Englishman,
we hold these truths to be self-evident.
And as soon as the CV came through the door with that name on it, should have been enough to throw it in the bin. And don't come back! Problem is though, I'm not really a Harry Potter fan. I've seen the majority of the movies, but not all of them, and I haven't read the books, so I'm not emotionally connected to this character at all. That means that the swap itself doesn't particularly affect me. What I'm interested in more is how it changes the story, how it changes the atmosphere, and the effect it has on Harry Potter fans themselves. As the Harry Potter franchise is already very divided, not just from the source material, but then the author and the people that don't like the author and her beliefs. The Harry Potter audience has already been trying to divide themselves from JK Rowling for a long time, even going so far as stripping the books of her name and reselling them without it, because despite the fact that JK Rowling agrees with them on nearly every single radical belief, she disagrees with them on one item, and that's enough. Fans have been trying to strip JK Rowling from the property for a long time. There's been protests and attempted boycotts over Harry Potter content, but none of it worked. Even when gaming forums and publications banned actual discussion of the game itself, well, they still played it, because this is a group of people which Harry Potter is their childhood. It's the property they care most about. It's where all their nostalgia is. And so even when they despise the author, they have no option but to try and separate her from it, because it means so much to them. The Gamer wrote an entire hit piece about how games media has failed the Hogwarts legacy test, because this is where we're at. The toy is just too good for us to care about anything else. And despite the fact that JK Rowling is still profiting financially from every Harry Potter sale that goes on, they're more attached to the IP than they are the ideology. The Harry Potter franchise has essentially been at woke civil war. They hate the artists, they love the IP, and they hate that they love the IP. Meanwhile, there's another group that hates the people that love the IP, or at least virtue signal over it, and then in private play it. The issue is, these people have no defense against their own ideology. They can't do a successful boycott, because they're getting everything they want. Hogwarts Legacy even put their anti-JK Rowling character into the game, but it still wasn't enough to appease them. These are people that have been preaching diversity and inclusion like it's a good thing. Now everyone else knows that it makes entertainment that nobody will watch. Inclusion is the lack of standards, and diversity changes the inherent atmosphere and tone of the story, the setting. Just makes everything the same grey mush. Nothing is from anywhere, and so it doesn't mean anything to anybody. Harry Potter, being a British franchise, requires British people in order for it to feel authentically British. JK Rowling managed this in movies by banning American actors, and as such could create an immersive world that the fans liked. That's gone out of the window here. We have seen how casting the wrong actors actually means more than just the casting itself. It's not just how the characters look, but it showcases where your priorities lie. They're casting them specifically because they are not the original people, because the original culture, the original actors, the original cast needs to be replaced. They see the foreign, the outgroup, as superior to the home nation, and therefore it takes precedence over it. This means that not only do you not get the original source material that you liked, but you get a foreign, perverted, alien version of it, which is not just only not immersive, but actively offensive to the original source material. Deadline even says the Harry Potter franchise continues to build a more inclusive, and inclusion is the destruction of standards. The only way you can include more of anybody is to lower your standards to include people that you were excluding before because they didn't hit the quality bar. And diverse universe. If we change anything and bring in the outgroup, it will be better in some way. They eat curry now or something.
I like curry, but now that we've got the recipe...
That'll improve Harry Potter. But the article does slip up when it says this is something another popular franchise, The Lord of the Rings, also embarked on when transitioning to the small screen on the Amazon series, and it certainly did. They came out and altered the source material of Lord of the Rings and made a real stinker.
I would have placed a crown upon your head.
To be fair, I much prefer the crown through a heart. This is also something that happened in Doctor Who when they replaced all of the British people with a Rwandan cutie Gatwa.
Don't mind, I just got snowman and I would like to go home.
Someone who wanted to do a big dance number on the show. A big, fierce dance routine that destroys the monster with twerking. Or maybe some death drops. That's what'll drop the monster. Englishmen or native British aren't just a way of looking. It's a culture. It's an actual identity. It's a way of acting and conducting yourself through the world. It brings with it certain values and cultures. One of which being restraint, a sense of decorum. There's a reason why the Brits are known for the stiff upper lip. And when you take those people and replace them with other cultures, which have different boundaries, different norms, you change the entire work, because it ceases to be about the home culture. And instead, as you replace them with something foreign, because you think that's better than the actual source, you will inevitably replace the culture with the foreign culture as well. And we've seen this in both Rings of Power and Doctor Who. They didn't just change the character and keep everything the same. No, they changed the world specifically to fit the new character.
Message that is written in Gallifreyan symbols, and it is a Rwandan proverb.
Oh, well, now we've got a Rwandan doctor, so we've got to represent Rwanda and put Rwanda into Doctor Who for some reason. Obviously, we'll put Rwandan sayings onto the sonic screwdriver. That's just normal.
It translates to the sharpness of the tongue defeats the sharpness of the warrior.
A sonic screwdriver, by the way, that means so much to Cutie Gatwa that he knows all about it.
You hold it like this, it can light up.
Yes, I've got a flashlight on me. That's sci-fi for you.
Powered by a crystal.
In-depth explanation there of the Doctor Who lore. This works because it's got a crystal. Sorry.
A purple one.
A purple crystal. I did briefly doubt his sci-fi knowledge there, but he sure showed me. And casting somebody changes the tone. It changes the content of the story, because everybody involved, all the executives know why they changed the cast in the first place. They changed it for racism, and so they have to bring it up.
The moment we cast Shooty, everyone said to me, oh my god, what's it going to be like when he goes into the past? Because a black doctor's going to face such racism.
The first scene they made Cutie shoot was where he had to go at people for not following him because of the way he looked.
It's one of the most remarkable performances I've ever seen.
You will die out there, and I can save your lives. Now let me.
They're like, oh, well, obviously we couldn't just ignore it, because they know it means something, because they know it has a greater effect.
You probably do realise it in the act, but it's the moment when we look around and everyone is white, and you're just like, ah.
They just want to lie to you about it, while simultaneously having their cake and eat it.
Sit there going, what about now? And why do you think racism's only in the past when you look at what's happening to the world?
Powerful and clever episode.
You can hear Russell Davies talking about the effects that the casting does have on the integral part of a story itself.
What we can't tell is how many people will have worked that out before the ending, because they've seen white person after white person after white person. Now, I wonder, will you be 10 minutes into it? Will you be 15? Will you be 20? Before you start to think everyone in this community is white? And if you don't think that, why didn't you?
Well, the reason nobody would notice, Davis, is because you film it in Wales. It's a British show, and so it's perfectly normal. Which is why it would be perfectly normal in Harry Potter. And yet TV executives want you to think there's something wrong with it, because they think an outgroup is superior, and so they change the casting, and then have to make the story about the casting, because otherwise you've got an elephant in the room. Everyone knows that you have to talk about why you changed it, because otherwise there's no reason to. You make the change because you think it's better, because you think it improves the show. And in doing so, destroy the actual show that was meant to exist. Look at Rings of Power. Oh, we got an elf. The elves were born before the sun, but for some reason, this one guy, he needed protection from the sun that didn't exist yet, or something. Did they just get an elf to exist and be like, it's fine, we're not going to do... No. Obviously, as they'd replace the elf with a Brazilian, well, now we've got to represent Brazil in Lord of the Rings for some reason.
So I brought in wushu, taekwondo, kung fu, and Brazilian, Afro-Brazilian martial art, capoeira.
I mean, this is a show made to represent British mythology. It's an entirely English endeavour, and yet for some reason, this is what we had to add into it. And why was that important to add in, Ishmael?
It was very important for me to create something new and to honor the depth of the variety and diversity within the elven world.
Yes, now we've got to represent the world for some reason in this English IP. Something that was specifically created for England, for Britain, is now, we've got to shove Brazil into it. Then that dancing that he incorporated into his fighting style also came with a lot of baggage. It's an Afro-Brazilian martial art and game that includes elements of dance, acrobatics, music, and spirituality. But it was something that slaves used to fight and escape and resist capture. It was simply their training, their practice was concealed by adding in the music, song, and dance elements. They didn't just cast an elf, they cast an elf brought in foreign cultures where it didn't belong. Also, they could have a commentary about slavery. And these things have no place in a British show. I've heard about these Snape commentary, people going, well, actually, he got hung from a tree, and so now you're going to have lynching in Harry Potter. I'm like, yeah, but we didn't have that in England. That never happened in the 60s. There are World War II videos where they've got American soldiers coming over. I'm like, well, actually, Mike, while you come over here, we do actually treat them like people.
Now, let's be frank about it. There are colored soldiers as well as white here. And there are less social restrictions in this country. Look, that might not happen at home. The point is, we're not at home. If we bring a lot of prejudices here, what are we going to do about them?
Having Harry Potter being made by HBO, we've now got a load of American baggage coming over to a British IP, and inserting a load of cultural political commentary that simply didn't exist here, and as such has no place in the show itself. And this does matter, because when you're crafting a world, it's meant to be believable. Everything about it is meant to fit. When Valve were making Steam VR, they found out that every single sense that you could add into the virtual world wasn't just additive to your immersion in the game, but multiplicative. Yeah, you had the visuals on point, but if you could hear stuff, then feel stuff, if the wind was blowing on you, then it all multiplied to make your brain believe you were in the world and make it more immersive. And that's what you want in a TV show. It should be immersive. You should feel as if you're in the world. Your brain should want to accept it, and every single thing that drags you out, you're like, oh, there's the Californian thing over there. Oh, that's from Portland. We've got some Brazilian martial art over here. Now we've got Rwandan poetry being added in. Oh, this is the director making some kind of narration about how future sci-fi planets are going to have problems. All of it drags you out of the show. It changes the atmosphere, and you're not immersed because you're always waiting for the next time they hit you in the face with something that doesn't belong.
You're pure evil.
And you're just another man taking credit for a woman's work.
And that's all from my perspective. These are all things we've seen in other shows, from The Acolyte to Agatha, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Every time this has been added into shows, we've said the same things, and we've had the same responses. You're all bigots. This is disgusting. I can't believe you've done this to us. We just came along here and we're making a TV show, but you bigots won't leave us alone.
Some of the fan base just sickened me to my stomach. You're no Star Wars fan in my mind.
And everyone watching this video has probably already seen that, you've probably been called it, and it doesn't have an effect anymore. But there's a large group of people out there that were the ones doing this, that were on social media attacking people for not wanting this, that were attacking people over the Doctor Who changes, or were aligning with the Rings of Power showrunners when they were talking about review bombing and calling the show's critics patently evil.
I stand against hate.
I stand against hate. I stand against hate.
There's a rabid group of people that will have supported all of that because it didn't mean anything to them. They didn't like Doctor Who, they weren't attached to Star Wars, and were probably all on board when Tolkien and Orwell were linked to extremism. But they were never attached to any of these IPs, and that's about to change. They do like Harry Potter, they've tried to form boycotts around it, and it doesn't work because they can't resist it. The toy is too good to play with. They're about to witness something they care about be destroyed by their own ideology, and they have no defense against it. When the cast of Harry Potter and starts condemning their commentary about the show, about the changes, criticizing the alterations that they make as they now feel they need to represent other cultures rather than the one Harry Potter is, they'll be forced to agree, despite the fact that they know it's wrong. This will be the equivalent of a dog pissing on the carpet and having its nose rubbed in it. You've spent years destroying every single franchise you could and attacking the people trying to save them, all because you thought it was funny that their IPs were burning as you didn't care about them. You hated what those IPs were based on, and you thought it was so much better if we brought in all these outside influences that simply didn't belong there.
I feel like history is on a progressive trajectory as someone who become a sort of de facto activist.
And now it's happening to you. They won't have any arguments against it. They won't be able to make videos about it. They've never thought about any of these topics before. And when they've seen videos made by people that have, they attack them. They can hardly side with them now. With basic questions about Hogwarts Legacy of, why is everyone calling me they? They thought nothing of them except that they were a petulant child. And likely their only defense against it will simply be to ban discussion about it in the first place. I mean, these are people who actually exiled their family members all because they purchased a game. And if you go against their wishes, well, they'll spam spoilers at you. It'll go down to simply trying to ruin your enjoyment of something. Well, the thing is, now their enjoyment will be ruined. Now the bitter, sad, sick and twisted people are having their ideology forced down their throat and feeling the consequences of it. And as much as they'd normally like that, now they're gonna feel a different set of consequences. They won't like the change because it's obviously not what they want, but maybe they'll convince themselves, jump through the logical loopholes required to go, well, you no, I'm better than that. I just like the outgroup more than the source material. Yeah, it's not a great casting, but maybe it'll be good. And then the show will launch. And they'll find out that it isn't just that, because it's never just that. Just like Rings of Power and Doctor Who, it brings with it all the ideological, cultural baggage that will change the source material from the thing that you loved, and they will end up with a perverted version of everything they wanted. It'll be Wheel of Time, but in the Harry Potter world, and they won't be able to talk to any of their friends about it, because they'll all be banned, all scared to speak the truth, all scared to be the one that's ousted. You could even end up with a situation where everyone else tells their entire friend group that they really like it. Oh, I have no problem with the changes, because nobody wants to be the one that's exiled, despite the fact that they all think it. They might all virtue signal over having no problem with the show, while all having the same problem. This is the kind of lunatic situations you get into when nobody can just tell each other the truth. Everyone's so scared of not being part of the consensus that they create their own false consensus. They simply say what they think everybody else thinks, despite the fact that none of them actually believe it.
So, what do you think?
I think it's a beautiful lie.
Because the only thing they can do now is follow the ideology, which says this is fine. And so when they get to the lynching, even though it doesn't make sense in a British context, you've already brought in all the foreign cultural baggage. So now you have to face it. Now it changes the entire scene, the entire story, whether you wanted to or not. But now it's their childhood. Now it's something they wanted. Now they're being told by their own ideology that everything they liked as a child was wrong. And we can improve it if only you'll let us set fire to it. These are people about to be confronted with the same thing that gamers were about Hogwarts Legacy. Articles from places like The Conversation talking about how, JK Rowling did have some foreigners in the books, but they were just tokens, and JK Rowling simply trying to do hindsight representation. She's going back through and changing people that we all know weren't that way, but they are now, just because she's claiming, didn't exactly say it, because it was England, and so you didn't need to. They'll have to contend with people claiming their IP as their own. Oh, actually, no, Harry Potter was always African, and face, basically being called evil. And while you didn't exclude anyone before, they did have to fit in, didn't they? And that's wrong. People shouldn't be made to fit into your world. They should be made to like your world. You should simply capitulate and give your world over to them. Sure, Harry Potter may have had default thinking about what it meant to be English, and you may have historically ignored things like race, gender, and all that kind of crap. But if you don't focus on it, foreigners can be erased from your English culture. JK Rowling has been criticized for basically everything at this point about the books, because they just weren't modern enough. You are about to witness an entire group of people come face to face with the monster that they created. If you think they eat their own so far, you've seen nothing yet. I remember the wars on Reddit that happened over Wheel of Time. People got kicked out of subreddits. Other subreddits got took down by the moderators because they weren't allowed to exist. And you're about to witness it all over again in Harry Potter. We are going to witness levels of life comes at you fast, hitherto unknown. Because they weren't wrong when they were talking about Lord of the Rings or Doctor Who before. They were masculine properties. They had male values. And as such, they were always going to lean to more one side of the aisle. They were never of the modern, more effeminate morality. They were never of that crowd. One of the reasons they went to so much effort to pervert them. It was like taking an enemy's castle. But now, they've destroyed all the biggest IPs. Now, they are being forced to eat their own. And nobody likes this stuff, no matter what the ideology. The Acolyte was the perfect epitome of every single ideological leaning that you could have. Every tick box, every idea, every double standard was all represented in the Acolyte. And it died. Because even they don't like the entertainment that comes about as a result of their ideology. They don't watch any of this stuff. They just like taking something that other people have, something that belongs to them, and watching it burn to the ground. They like perverting it. They like the sense of winning. So they'll cheer for a show being created that's everything they want. They'll laugh as it destroys the Star Wars that you enjoy, but they won't watch it. They never thought for a million years it'd come after something that they wanted. And now they have no defenses, no arguments, no way of fighting back. They can only sit there, a virtue signal to their friends as they watch their childhood be destroyed and rewritten in front of them. And they may even think that it'll be an improvement. No, of course we want our characters swapped for all the rest of the world. And it won't be until they witness it in front of themselves, when they realize they feel nothing for it, that it has no connection, no motivation, none of the characteristics that made them like the story in the first place. Only then will the chickens come home to roost. But the most interesting thing about this is that Harry Potter itself is like Lord of the Rings for a different generation and a different audience. JK Rowling, being so progressive in itself, did make it a progressive IP. And this will be the proof, the icing on the cake, that their ideology doesn't even work for their own IPs. And despite all the hype, despite the excitement that this show may have had, despite the people who should have known better giving it the benefit of the doubt, this casting alone killed all of those hopes because it showed what they valued and what they were going to do. And now the most interesting part of it will be witnessing the people that asked for this, demanded this, the people who attacked anyone that stood against it, getting what they deserve. Oh, you may have laughed when they came to destroy the IPs that I cared about. Now, the bigot's on the other foot, and this is going to be glorious. Hey, maybe they won't be able to appreciate exactly why their IP's been destroyed. But when they go looking for it, there will be those which have seen this happen before who can explain it to them. Although I'm not sure they'll be quite so happy when they realise the problem's been them all along. But those are just my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know down in the comments below. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe. More videos like this in the future, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.